Guys, my name is Pratik Hanumantadhav and today I am going to teach you about Python classes, objects and inheritance. Then let's begin. Now here we have class. Now what is classes? Now Python deals with purely object-oriented concept. As we know, everything present in Python is an object. We have integer. The integer is an object of class int. We can consider string because string is an object of class string. Everything present in Python is an object. Everything is in Python is an object. To create object, we require some model or plan or blueprint, which is nothing but an class. Now, if you want, let's take an example of a building. If you want to build a building, you will be need a blueprint. The blueprint of an the structure is nothing but an class. Now, the building will be object and the blueprint you created for build the building will be its class. We can write a class to represent properties, attributes and actions of behavior of an object. We can write the definition, we can write the methods, we can write the variables. There are three types of variables, three types of methods. We are going to learn later about that. uh, we can write various types of variable functions which shows the behavior of an object you created. Now properties can be represented by variables and actions can be represented by methods. Hence class contains both variables and methods. Now how to define a class? We can define the class by using contains uh, class keyword and class name colon class body. We have to write the class keyword, then we have to write the name of class. There is we have seen previously the rules for defining a name or identifier. Anything name you can give to the class name will be acceptable. Then the colon and the class body in which we are going to write the method functions, local variables and various steps. Now let's move on. Now what is object? Now as I told you, let's take an example of an animal. If animal is in class, then dogs, cats, lions, tigers will be its objects. If human is a class, then men, women going to its objects. Now, any physical entity which exists is nothing but a class. Now, physical existence of a class is nothing but an object. We can create any number of objects for a class. The syntax to create object. Object name is equal to class name. By using this syntax, we can create an object of the class. For example, we have given example yes is equal to student, where student is a class and yes is an object of student class. Now in Python, Python refers as a new kind of a variable which is known as reference variable. It is similar like the this pointer we have learned in previous years in C++ and Java, but this is not Python. As we know, there is no concept of a pointer in Python. The variable which can be used to refer the object is called as reference variable. The reference variable is nothing but a variable which refers the current object. By using reference variable, we can access properties of methods and object. By using the reference variable, we can access the method functions we wrote inside the class and the variables. Now, there are three types of variables in Python we write inside the class. Within the Python class, we can represent data by using variables. There are three types of variables which are allowed in Python. Instance variables, which are object level variables, static level variables, which are class level variables, local variables, which are method level variables. Now, instance variable is a variable which is declared inside a class, inside a constructor, is nothing but an instance variable. A static variable. Static variable is a variable declared inside a class but outside the constructor is called as static variables. Local variables are the variables are declared in the normal function which have scope within that function is nothing but an local variables. Now, Now let's take an example of variables. Here we created class A. Inside that we have x is equal to 10. As I told you, the variable we write inside the class but outside the constructor is called as a static variable. Now we have diff init self. Now init is an constructor of a class. Init is a keyword used to create a constructor which accepts one parameter self which refers the current object of a class. Inside that we have written a is equal to 100. Now with the variable declared inside the class inside the constructor is known as instance variable, and outside the constructor we have written a def function, a normal function inside which we declare a variable called as b, which is a local variable because it have the scope inside the normal function. We have created object t of class a and we have called the function which absolutely give the value 20. Now the constructor doesn't need to call itself, it will call automatically when we create the object of a class. Now types of methods. Inside the Python class, three types of methods are allowed: instance methods, class methods, and static methods. Now let's take an example of a class A. We have created the class A. Definition, init and self means we have created the constructor right here which accept the self parameter. We have written two variables a b is equal to 20 and we just added both variables. Now the method in which we write instance variables, we declare instance variables, such a method is called as instance method. The next is class method. We have written a decorator here as class method. We are going to learn decorator in next sessions. The decorator write the class method here because the decorator, the compiler, the interpreter will understand that the definition function we have written which accepts one parameter CLS is a class method, and the static method is a method nothing but denoted by the decorator static method. We have created the object t dot fun1 and called the functions. Now let's take an look next. Now we are going to look at Python inheritance. Now what is inheritance? Inheritance is an important aspect of the object-oriented paradigm. It is one of the four pillars of Python object-oriented concept. Now inheritance provides code reusability to the program because we can use existing class to create a new class instead of creating it from scratch. In Python, a derived class can inherit a base class by just mentioning the base in the bracket after the derived class name. Now, what is inheritance? By using inheritance, we can create a child class by using its parent class. In the child class, all the properties of parent class will be present in the child class. Now there are three types of inheritance: single level inheritance, multi-level inheritance, and multiple inheritance. We are going to take a look at one by one. Now this is single level inheritance. The syntax of single level inheritance is a class, create a class, class name, and write the class names from which we have derived the class. Now let's take a look at an example. We have created class animal which have function speak. Now in that speak function we have printed animal speaking, and then we have another class which called as dog, and the dog in a dog we have derived the dog by using the class animal because in bracket we have written the animal. This is the syntax of deriving a class from an existing class. Now inside the dog class is a definition called as bark self. The function method is called as bark. Now in the bark we have printed dog is barking. Now look at here, we have created the object of dog d. We have created the object of dog, not the animal, only dog. The object is d. We have called the function by object dot function name. Now d is the object, d dot function name is bark. We have called the bark function from dog class, but in the next statement we have using the object of dog class to call the method of animal class. Now this is do possible because we have inherited the dog class by using animal class. Let's take a simple example of your grandfather and your father. Your grandfather knows how to use and phone uh, Nokia 360. Let's consider the button phone, but your father uses the smartphone. Now we have inherited your father from your grandfather. Now your father uses smartphone, but your grandfather doesn't know how to use smartphone. But your grandfather uses the button phone, but your father will know how to use smartphone as well as the button phone. Now that principle applied here, we have inherited the dog class by using the animal class. That's why every feature of an animal class is derived into the dog class. Because of that, if we created object of the dog and call the function of the animal, the call goes and program executes successfully because we have inherited the dog class by using an animal class. But it is not possible to call the uh, call created object of animal and call the function inside the dog class because I have explained it before. Example, your grandfather doesn't know how to work on smartphone like that. Here we have output dog barking and animal speaking. Now let's move forward. We have multi-level inheritance. Now what is multi-level inheritance? The syntax of multi-level inheritance is given below. It is possible in Python like other object-oriented languages. Multi-level inheritance is achieved when a derived class inherits another derived class. There is no limit the number of levels up to which the multi-level inheritance is achieved in Python. Now we have syntax. We have to create first class and write its body. Then second class must be derived from first class. Then the second class must be derived from first class. If we create the third class, then the third class must be derived from the second class. If you create the fourth class must be derived from the third class, and so on. This is the syntax. The class 1 by using derived we created class 2, by using we created class until the n. Let's move on let's move on to an example class. We have created the class animal, the example we seen before. It which has animal definition speak, bark, and here we have another class added here as dog child. Now let's take an example of your grandfather, your father, and you. Your grandfather knows how to use the button phone, your father knows how to use a smartphone, but you knows how to use the laptop. Your grandfather knows how to use button phone but not know how to use laptops or smartphone either. Your father will know how to use button phone or smartphone but not laptop. But we are the smart smart generation. We can know, we are know that how to use laptops or smartphones or button phones. That example we have created here animal. By using animal we derived and dog. In mean the dog class have the properties of the animal class. By using dog we have inherited the dog child which have the properties of dog class. Now we have created the object of dog child. By using we are calling both of the functions present in the animal. We have called the function inside the dog class by using object of dog child. We have also called the function inside the animal class by using the object of dog child. That is due possible because the multi-level inheritance. Now multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance is nothing but by using two or more base classes we derived a single class that is called as multiple inheritance. Now we have syntax here: class 1 base class base 1, class base 2, class base n. By using them we have created the class, derived the class base 1, base 2 and base 3. This is here. Let's move forward to an example. Now we have created a class calculation 1 here. Inside we have definition summation. We have class calculation 2. Inside we have multiplication. A class derived which have definition divide. Now we have created the derived classes object, and by using we have called each and every function present inside every class, because by using multiple number of class we have created a single class, because in that single class there must be properties of other classes are present inside a derived class. That's why the call must go to the every function and program will execute successfully. Now now thank you for giving me a chance to represent myself and speaking in front of you. I would like to thank you, the subject teachers, and everyone who helped me in this project. Thank you so much.